Alright, welcome to Daily 699, where we learn to be a better gamer quickly. We've been watching soO vs Zest. This is game 3 of their series. They're currently tied 1-1 as of this. And we're going to speed things up because if you want to get the full action... Oh! You can go check it out over at GOM.EXP, I think is what they're calling themselves now, as opposed to GOM TV, which I'm very used to calling them. Yeah. So this is the analysis of that, not the cast. Aw, yeah. So on Heavy Rain, again, I think soO is doing very smart Overlord scouting patterns, checking by all the usual locations, and then just sprinting straight on up to the front, and is just blindly, ballsily going for a 3-hatch. And we've already seen the punishment that soO unleashed to Zest when Zest went Forge first. So let's see if... Let us see what he can do against his opponent, the enemy soO. So I really like this build from Zest. It's a kind of quirky one, but you go Nexus and then Gate and then Cybernetics Core and you skip the Forge, which might look a little dangerous, but what's fantastic about it is that this is around the time that you normally start your Cybernetics Core. Normally it's around 3:30 for a Gateway, and around 4:30 for a Cybernetics Core. Yeah. Oh my god. Oh. Oh, uh-oh, uh-oh. Dude, don't tell anyone. But someone's gonna propose to someone from chat. Ooh. I don't want to say who, in case said proposee is lurking out elsewhere. Anyways, so we see Zest going straight for the Phoenix. This is a ridiculously fast Phoenix. So this is a sort of, it's an odd way to circumvent early aggression problems. I mean, we see Zest having absolutely no sentry at all, getting still the 6-minute assimilators, which is quite early. But the way that Zest is circumventing aggression is he's saying, alright, well, I'm getting Phoenixes so fast that if you attack me, I'm going to rip your main base apart. So Zest, then, is kind of indirectly controlling the game. And indirectly keeping himself safe. So we're seeing out of Zest on the backside is just another 4 gateways, which allows for a variety of options like these attacks. These attacks are much more effective now. It's later in the game. Normally you can get a gateway attack happening at like 7 minutes. Sometimes even earlier. However, most of the time the Zerg's focus is on this and droning. soO a little bit too good for that, sees this coming a mile away. And look at this, our Queen's already tightly packed up at the front lines. And just massling overwhelmage. Could be argued that it's inefficient to build Lings against Zealots. I mean, look at the trades going on right now. But it's so important to note that soO is essentially rendering these Queens useless. Or, excuse me, soO is essentially rendering these Phoenixes useless. So suddenly Zest is in an awkward position where he's up against a lot of Zerglings, and Expand is no longer going to work. His ultra-fast Phoenix play to control the game has been foiled by this huge Ling number. And now the Lings are going to be ahead in the armor upgrade compartment. So really as Zest, you're just forced to go for a pretty typical Robo Bay. And then same play again. Gonna go straight for the Spire to get up those Corruptors. Not a terribly large amount of drones have been killed off. Great decisions by soO to try to engage these often and to continue to build Lings. This is going to force Zest to build more Zealots, to build more Sentries, which are going to be worse against the soon-to-be Mutalisks. Just a very cool, clear closeout play. So if you ask yourself the question, why on earth would soO answer Phoenixes with so many Zerglings? We're getting a very clear demonstration in this game. The Zerglings can scout for cutesy aggression, can shut down third base attempts, resist the strength of the Phoenixes, which is to lift thingies, and then allows for this very elegant, swift transition to air. And then it's just going to be a really downhill experience for Zest for here on out. Just one of the most beautifully executed, simple answers to a big air play. Attempts to try to take out the Forge, love it. And even if it doesn't take out the Forge, it's causing this just gravity well of focus for Zest. Zest's just like, oh dude, I can't, no, not my Forge, All his units are going to be here. This gives soO the freedom that he needs to take these expansions, and of course building spine, all the time. And also a very nice little trick is that against air, normally, these spore crawlers are built in very large numbers early on, but don't need to be used later. You can unburrow one from each location and just put one here, move one to your expansion, move one up here, and now you have your anti-Dark Templar stuffs. Very, very nice, simple little play. Kind of uncommonly used, because I think people still find these to be spore colonies, as opposed to spore crawlers. I do dare say. And then we see just transitions up to Infestation Pit. Transitions that just don't matter, because power overwhelming, what do you know, Joe? soO is gonna do his dirty thing. He's going to get quite dirty. GG! Alright, cool. We got through that game. I'm excellent. Did my chat break? Just making sure. Oh! We're gonna go on to an impossibly hot game. Is my chat actually busted? Hopefully I'm not talking alone to myself in a room. But we all know that's what happens in every daily. I'm gonna refresh my chat, because I think it's gone from Robusto to Busto. Everything stopped typing. Or maybe y'all's chat's broke. Oh, now I'm starting to see people type. Nice. Okay, the map is this one. Oh my god, Yunsu, excuse me. My mouth wanted to say Polar Night. And I knew that was wrong. Now, I think the most notable formation on this map, there's two really notable ones. First and foremost, it's just very narrow alleyways here. It's not as convenient to sort of go around. There is some circular motion to the map, but it's mostly that it's narrow passages, like this is an example of one, so it's very good to just shove locusts down. Swarm hosts are particularly good on this map. And also, this formation around this expansion is going to be very important. How easy it is to perform la défense. So soO has gone pool, expand. The big question for Zest is there going to be a third base down? So he's just going to chill, spot what the Lings are up to, and then likely go investigate a little bit more. Now, what I personally like to do is know when the gas timing's down, and that really won't be so possible anymore. But what soO's elected to do is to get himself a single queen at this front side, juste un, and then get this early gas timing that would normally be used for fast Ling speed, and then just go for a big roach attack. Very fast roach attack. So right now, soO is leading the series 1-0. This is a great choice by Zest on this particular map. Why? His build opening it pretty much reveals everything that he's intending to do. He wants to get a fast third. Why? Because he's getting this +1. He's getting no other tech, but he's getting these two gases. So what on earth could he spend his gas upon? Sentries. What would be good with sentries? All-ins. Well, the only other all-in that uses sentries is the Immortal all-in. So even if he does make 8 gates and goes for an attack, it's still going to be an absolutely clean transition to a third base. So we see some just brilliant placement by Zest. This is so cool. This pylon placement means that you still have enough space to build 2 cannons, and then it forms a wall off with the Nexus. Now you might ask yourself, was that intentional or not? It's not important if it's intentional or not. It's important that it's true. He can get a full wall off here with these set of buildings. Very cool. Zest desperately tries to hold on. Chrono boosting, all defense, long. With so many units coming right out. For soO's in a spot about which he will pout. La Défense. Now the thing that's kind of like Stinker Town for soO is that if all these were drones, I mean, think about that. I mean, that's gonna pop his drone count to like what, 6 or 50 right now. So freaking many drones. And what's very fortunate about this position that Zest finds himself in is that he has some very, very easy transitions. Normally, you'd like to throw down an expansion and then get a Twilight Council. Or, excuse me, normally you'd want to go for, like, these 4 gates, expand, and then go Twilight Council. Well, Zest got messed with and is worried he doesn't have enough units. One of the best things to do when you've been messed with is to just go for +2 attack. A Dark Shrine to exploit the difficulties that soO will have with varieties of tech. There's the +2. Blink! Because we don't have Phoenixes. You need Blink or Phoenixes. Gotta have one. So he's essentially back on track with his normal plan. More or less, here he is. And yet has had the ability to warp in a couple DTs. Ooh. soO, being the huge boss that he is just, I will call it teching up normally, because that's pretty much all we have the time for in this particular show. This is just good stuff. Getting the chance to whackety-whack down everything, anything, thing. And most notably gets himself La Défense. And what I love so much about every early Sentry play is that we get to do stuff like this. We can be a little bit over-aggressive as long as we have a lot of sentries, because we can force field and Mothership Core the F out. So I think that this is a pretty straightforward game up to this point. But what's the real strategy? What's the long-term goal? Now, of course, tactics is just cool moves that you can do that might take place within 30 seconds, a minute of game time. But strategy is the broad, overarching story. What am I trying to do in this game? From Zest's point of view, I'm going to be very excited that I'm up against an opponent who has only just now started a 4th. I'm going to feel much more eager to do some big timing pushes, because even if he is trying to save for a big Mutalisk transition, it won't be a very strong Mutalisk transition. So I like this choice to get the sort of emergency Warp Prism before the Robo. Where's the Robo? Robo's probably going to be somewhere around here. There he is! Very wondrous and wonderful way to apply pressure. Back. The Spire's been seen with so many of these guys. So many sentries. It's very easy to spot these transitions early and to go straight for the starports. Honestly, if your opponent starts to go for the mass Mutalisk play, you really need to answer with the mass Phoenix play. So if I'm in soO's shoes, I'm going to be saying, dude, I got to get these Mutalisks out fast, make my opponent defensive right now and just expand my balls off. I don't know why I've decided that that's like a phrase of the day. You're gonna have to fill in the blank. Your balls off in this show. This is the long timing window for soO, where he's really got to begin to deal considerable damage in this period of time before the Mutalisk, excuse me, before the Phoenix count gets high and before the Phoenix count gets range. So all these little exchanges are great. Like 6 Phoenixes is like, I think I can deal with that. 12 to 15 Phoenixes is you're screwed. You're gonna lose. So the fact that he can continue to batter it down, the fact that soO is being as aggressive as possible is brilliant. Because again, soO is looking to get as inefficient but as map control emphasized trades as he possibly can. So he has freedom to get up these expansions. So he has freedom to just wear Zest out. It might be the case that soO loses 50,000 of units and Zest loses 35, but Zest is mined out and soO still has running bases. You can perform these clever, inefficient plays when you have those kinds of leads. So in this spot, with all the sort of strategies, or excuse me, all the build orders having weaved their way to about the same position, suddenly Zest is starting to get into a very comfortable situation. Not an extremely comfortable situation, but he's getting to the tip of stabilizing. He's just gotten a big win. Often what's occurring with a gateway-focused player is he's looking for a big opportunity win against a huge pack of Mutalisk to really cull that down. And he's looking for an opportunity to get another base, to make another attack. Really just one of those two. There's the only really two options that you have at this point. And soO's strategy is more or less the same. But what Zest is also looking to do is to begin to branch out his force away from just a Phoenix Stalker force. Because a Phoenix Stalker force it's honestly quite vulnerable to sudden shifts. A couple of Infestors pop out, and suddenly no blink for you. You are scroozled. So the transition to Archon, the transition to get a couple more Zealots, all allowable once the Phoenix count gets high. But until the Phoenix count is quite high, I mean, you can't really afford to transition to Archon. So that kind of doesn't make sense the way I said it. So I'm gonna say it again in a different way. So you're spending all your gas on Phoenixes, and if you don't quite have enough Phoenixes, what are you gonna need to warp in? Stalkers. So there goes all the rest of your gas. If you try to warp in Archon, 1 Archon is equivalent to 6 Stalkers worth of gas. And we're ignoring minerals because that's not really a concern at this point in the game. Gas is the big restricting factor. So with that in mind, if you don't quite have enough Phoenixes yet, you kind of have to be building Stalkers just to stay alive. And if you get an Archon, it just gets surrounded and killed, and then you definitely die. Once you have enough Phoenixes to where they can more or less handle the air, that's when you can begin halting the Stalker production. There we go. That was more clear. Oh my god, we're happier with that one. So Zest does this sort of intermediarily cool move, which is to say, alright, I've got a lot of Stalkers up. I think that this base can stay alive until these Phoenixes return home. So that means that the Phoenixes, which are weirdly the most important defensive unit, can now suddenly be used for offense. What? This is the correct place to expand. This is the incorrect place to expand. We want to keep our expansions very much so along the direction of attack when we are against a hyper-mobile force. I mean, imagine for a moment if there was an expansion here, and our Protoss player began to move down here, a counterattack up here would be deadly. It would deal massive damage to the most important expansion. Now, with this base here, we can easily place our army here and just attack here and pull back, and we're defending our 2 key expansions. Sure, a counterattack could come up this way, but what damage is it going to do? There's 5 cannons here already. There's not that many probes that are going to be vulnerable. These are getting ready to head down here. So this is the absolutely correct place to expand. Brilliant move by Zest. And I think soO's continued commitment to this Mutalisk play makes sense. It's almost a universally strong strategy to Zerg. If you are at a point where you can go for a mass Mutalisk Corruptor play, you should yawn, because it's boring, man. Ugh! You think you're original. +2 attack, one of the oft-forgotten upgrades. soO looking for a juicy engagement. And look at this. Extra minerals being spent on cannons. How wonderful that Zest can defend against this. And then immediately is in a spot to threaten this bottom base. This is where these zealots can just break away and assault down here with ease. I think they do. Do they? I don't know. Oh shit, he lost the base. Oh my god. Oh my god. But great. There we go. This is something that should have happened a while ago. Very curious as to why it didn't happen earlier, but, you know. Zest, who's probably one of the more perfect Protosses we've ever seen, made a slight boo-boo. Oopsie-doopsies. No big deal. I credit the situation that Zest has wound himself up in, very much so to that early set of lings that soO made during the all-in that could have been drones. I think soO could have been quite a ways ahead. And this is really the issue with going for this mass Mutalisk style on this particular map. It's rather difficult to secure safe 4th and 5th bases. I mean, sure, this is an option, but Zest is just going to begin slowly working his way over there as he maintains control of this. Really, really difficult, cool play that we see out of good friend Zest. And soO is trying to make this move up here, and this is one of the scariest moves to do as a Zerg player. Because what if a Zealot Warpin were to hit any of these bases? Were to walk up to here? If you send a small number of units over there, it's pretty easy for the Phoenixes to dash over and annihilate it. So the only reason the Phoenixes wouldn't be able to dash over there and annihilate it is if an attack like this was going on. So soO's soO's still in the spot where he's like, oh god, I really want to pick away at the critical mass of Phoenixes. And is trying to, like, force engagements, but, I mean, Zest's defense. I mean, look how often Zest is just sitting at home. And if we look at the units lost tab, this is one of the reasons why Zest is largely on the defensive and not trying as aggressively to do these sorts of counters. Simply by being near the Mutalisks, Zest is going to be trading at an up and up. And most Protosses are going to have one simple play to keep the Zerg to X bases, where X is oftentimes 4, but if you really couldn't have ever prevented it, you just try to keep the Zerg at 5. So now if I'm Zest, I may very well be like, you know what, dude? Just do whatever. I'm not going to attack you. I'm just going to largely defend and try to lock you out of another base. And we see Zest doing these moves, and as part of the strategy, again, there's not, I mean, strategically speaking, he's not like, alright, now I gotta kill off the last base. He's posturing here because it's really good defensively for this base behind, for this base up here, and it locks Zerg out of this base just by being here, anywhere in these middle regions. More defensive maneuvers, doo-doo-doo-doo. And then Zest sends a little observer. Oh, an expansion. Wonderful. And then once he sees the Mutalisk pack, I'm going to come to the Zesty cam, because I think that's the sexy cam to go check out. Spending oodles and oodles of time controlling here, has lost a lot of Phoenixes thus far. No big deal. Chrono boost away. And then 2 Zealots go up top, because the Mutaflock. Oh. Mutaflock's at 41. 41 Mutalisks in the flock. And soO's real strategy is, damn it, I can get one good engagement, man. I think a very reasonable question is, why has he not gone for a fungal growth? A couple of reasons. It's about 1,000 gas to get a decent number of infestors with fungal growth. And as we've seen, Zest is being really aggressive, taking out these expansions as best he can. Even right now, with soO having dumped all his money into Mutacorruptor, Zest is still kind of able to dance and pull back. But the very important sort of army management thing that we're seeing out of Zest is that these Phoenixes are not really going out on their own. Almost always the Phoenixes are accompanied by a Stalker Archon army. So imagine for a moment if these Phoenixes get fungal growthed, what's going to happen? The Stalkers will blink directly under them, and then the Archons will begin wailing on the Mutalisks that are staying in one position. It's very, very difficult to get these Mutalisks... Oh, geez, that hurt. To get these Mutalisks to engage the Phoenixes without any Phoenix support. The correct place to expand to is Zest. And this would be a position where it might be okay to say something like, okay, I'm Zest. I'm just going to lock soO out of a 6th base. But that's a little bit harder because this base is very far away from the next 2 places where Zerg's going to want to expand. But in this spot, I want to take a look at the mini-map where we actually see vision coverage here. We see that the... where's the Mutalisk flock? Here we go. The Mutalisk flock that just sort of went from this area back here. So this little move to have Phoenixes shoot over to the expansion is a little cute. But the fact that this Stalker's monitoring everything, this is, I think... I don't want to call it a dangerous play, because it's obviously going to get guaranteed value. But it's one of those plays that you shouldn't just do blindly. And Zest very cleverly waited until he had some very clear vision to be able to pull this off. So now soO's just like, dude, you're killing off all my bases. And after an absolutely incredible game, I mean, Zest manages to pull the win. What just an insanely skillful play by Zest. That was... Ooh. Ooh. Defense, 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 all freaking game long. And I think the big takeaway from that game that I love from Zest is, as a broad strategy, not really being too aggressive about sending a whole army to kill an expansion. Not even really being that aggressive about counter-harassing and counter-dropping. Just being very careful and waiting for an opportunity. The Mutalisks are over here. Okay, 2 Zealots down there. Trying to increase his expansion count, positioning his army only for the good expansions. 2 big pieces from Zest that I really like. One in the mid, one in the late game. The mid-game decision to build a lot of Stalkers gave Zest the freedom to use his Phoenixes, unusually, to do a little bit more harassment, right as the Mutalisk count was starting to get high. The second thing that I love from Zest, a late-game maneuver, Zest was keeping his Archon Stalker army either as the primary thing, kind of pushing vision out, with Phoenixes kind of working in conjunction, which meant that the Phoenixes would almost never be able to get caught alone with just a naked fungal growth. And that's one of the big reasons why Zerg players have recently really almost gone for no fungal growth with their Corruptor Mutalisk mix. It's again about 1,000 gas, it's 10 Mutalisks to go for those infestors, and players are just keeping their Archon Stalker armies right on the ass of the Phoenixes. So it's very hard to get a good guaranteed kill. When we come back, we're going to try to do Game 5. We probably won't be able to do Game 7, but we'll see. I'm going to try.